Alright, a lot of people have asked me about the animals I have, and I've collected quite the menagerie about the Carson household. So today we're going to introduce you to the menagerie of Carson household animals. But I've already fed the snakes, so we won't be witnessing that. And I've already cleaned cages, so we won't be witnessing that. But we're going to start with the basic food. This is what they eat, different animals, and this is what I take care of on the weekends. So here is kale. Most of my animals, actually I guess about half of my reptiles are omnivores. I've got one herbivore and two carnivores. So I cut a lot of kale. They like kale. They like zucchini. Around here, I've got one of my bearded dragons that really loves carrots, so I always have carrots available. And the snow peas, which you can see I've gone through and cut the ends off the snow peas so they don't choke. They like the Italian parsley, so I bought a lot of that. I've got watercress in here, and then each one gets a supplement of vitamins and calcium on their food. And then, like I said, they're omnivores, which in the most part, omnivore is going to eat vegetables and insects. So I have to feed them insects. Now my carnivores are my leopard geckos, and the leopard geckos will eat the small crickets. The larger ones are the superworms, which the bearded dragons love as a treat, but they do not eat them on a regular basis. They eat the vegetables and the smaller mealworms, and you'll see me putting those on there. This is about how much of each vegetable I cut up. That lasts about a week, and I go through, I have 6 of these that I'll fill with what I've got on here, and then I just chop them up in this, which is very cheap and incredibly handy. So I chop them up on there. I'll put them in here. I'll keep them in the refrigerator along with those. They all have their own drawer in the refrigerator, and I'll feed them once a day. Sometimes, depending, the leopard geckos, the chameleon, they'll eat twice a day. So I'm going to go ahead and chop up some food, and then we'll introduce you to the rest of the animals. Alright, this is the bearded dragons. This is their food for the most part. You'll see there's a generous sprinkling of mealworms. And then these are their treats. They're also mealworms, but they're called superworms. Notice they're much larger and full grown. This is their enclosure. You notice the heat lamp, which is on a stand held above the screen. The reason for that is because animals can get up on the screen and knock the lights around if they're not secure. And of course they've got heat as well as UVB, and that's kind of a requirement. The bigger one is Rico.
Rico.
Stacy's gonna pull Rico out right now, and we're gonna show Rico eating his treats. Rico loves his treats.
Eat your cookies.
Well, actually, all of them love their treats.
Hey, I got you. Hey.
Now, this is a bearded dragon. They're quite active and very social. Oh. They're quite active and very social, and they love their food. God, they love their food. Now, he's going to grow to be anywhere from 1.5 to 2 foot long. And he's going to get, as you can see, he's going to get quite a gut on him.
Show everybody your gut.
Yeah.
See everybody your gut. See your little hand trying to hide it.
Yeah, and he's really pretty. See? Say hi, Rico. All right. Tony, on the other hand, is a little smaller, also a male, and Tony isn't as people friendly, but he's incredibly active and eager when it comes to his treat time, and he likes his food.
Hey, Mama's got your food. There you go.
Yeah, there he goes. crunching down a worm. And they each get 2 super worms a day, and that's their treat. And like I said, as you can see, they're quite eager. And again, he'll get to be about the same size as Rico will get.
And Tony is a
And
mama.
they'll keep that same coloring as they get larger, which is sort of a standard coloring for a bearded dragon. It's brown for the most part with a little red, which is good because they're desert creatures. They like the heat, they like the dry, they like the sand. And as you can see, we've done our best to create what would be their natural environment. And they really seem to enjoy it. Now this is Skinny. Skinny, as far as we can tell, is a female. Of course, Skinny's still very young. And note that Skinny does not have the standard brown coloring. Skinny is more of a yellowish white. And Skinny isn't big enough to eat the super worms, but you can see Skinny goes to town on the standard mealworms.
And the boys go completely nuts when they see her with the food.
And Skinny's significantly smaller, but with them being the social creatures they are, that they won't hurt each other. Now if I were to put one of my smaller leopard geckos in with the larger bearded dragons, them being the omnivores they are, they might easily eat the gecko. And I mentioned with the food, I had a bearded dragon that really liked carrots, and that's Skinny. Skinny likes carrots. So, and you can see, the boys see that Skinny's got the food bowl, and they are going completely bonkers about it. That's kind of what they do. So we'll go ahead and give them their food. And Skinny's got a little plant that Skinny stands on when it comes time to eat. Because as they are social and won't hurt each other, that doesn't mean they won't muscle Skinny out of the food.
There you go, Tony.
And here comes Tony right now.
Rico, your food's over there, darling.
And Tony and Rico will instantly go for the worms. And like I said, you'll see how they'll muscle each other out of the way just to get there. And the first thing they'll wipe out is those worms. Anyway, that's Tony, Rico, and Skinny right there, the bearded dragons. So now we're going to go ahead and meet the next one. This is Lola's enclosure. You'll note that Lola is a Eurymastix ornatus, or an ornate Eurymastix, also a desert creature, but she is not on sand right now. Normally she would be on sand, but Lola has a little bit of a health issue going on right now. We're trying to nurse her back to health. So she gets baths a couple times a day. She gets the special food as well as her normal food is offered to her. But she's not on sand because she's got a little bit of a dehydration issue with her health. And we don't want the sand soaking that up. But she would normally be on sand. And let's get her under the light. This is Lola, the ornate Eurymastix. You'll note the large spiked tail. That is typical of a Eurymastix. Note she's got a big jawline. She can crack beans and nuts with her jaw. She's a herbivore, but she will eat insects every once in a while if they're on the vegetables that she's eating. But she will not go hunting insects. She's not really quick. She's more of a leisurely, laid-back type of reptile. And again, you can tell by what we've got in here, we've done our best to try and create a natural environment, short of the sand, as I had mentioned. We'll put her over by the food. She's not really a people person, like I said, or a people reptile. Like I said, she's not feeling real well right now. But we give her the opportunity, and we're misting her regularly, which normally that wouldn't happen in the desert, but Again, she's got a dehydration issue that we're trying to address.
And sometimes it rains.
She's got a cave over here in the cool end, and she's got another one right there that we keep in the hotter end. You should always provide them with a means of shelter in the hot end and the cold end. So again, that's Lola, our Eurymastix, and she'll get to be about 15 inches long. She is the ornate Eurymastix is actually the smallest of the Eurymastix, and she won't get to be terribly large. So let's move on to the next one. All right, next we're going to see Jade. Jade is a baby veiled chameleon. Note she's got mealworms and crickets. Every once in a while I'll throw some vegetables in there, but they are not primarily vegetable eaters. So, and I like to put this up in her little tree. Notice she's not in the aquarium per se. She's actually in a different sort of enclosure. Jade is my one reptile that is not a desert dweller. She is a tropical reptile, and she is also arboreal, which means that she will not spend a lot of time down here. She'll spend her time up here. And notice she's got mist coming in. That's again because she's tropical and she needs it to be moist. Notice nowhere in here does she have a water bowl. That's because they don't drink water out of a bowl. They'll lick it off of the foliage in here and get it through their food. So we've got this fixture that will constantly feed her moisture and mist down onto her trees. And see if we can hold her under the light. And this is Jade. Again, say hi, Jade. She's a baby veiled chameleon. They're incredibly slow.
Wants nothing to do with the
and
camera.
she wants nothing to do with the camera. But that's her. Yes, she does change colors, but if you believe she changes colors to blend in with her background, you're mistaken. Colors are primarily for emotion. She'll get darker whenever she's under her heat, because that allows her to soak up more of the heat. And she's got some interesting looking toes. If you catch a look right there of those toes, that's what tells us she's a female. You'll notice the back foot has no spur on it, and that's kind of how you ID it. That's Jade. She's very pretty. All of my females are gorgeous. Those are two of them. You'll meet the third one a little later. But we'll let Jade go and let her get to her food, and we'll move on to the next one. All right, these are our upstairs reptiles. Downstairs in the bedroom is where we keep the bearded dragons and the Eurymastix. And then the chameleon actually lives in the living room, and she blends in very well there, no pun intended. We're going to go ahead and move on to, let's start with Pip. Pip is our youngest leopard gecko. Now, don't be fooled by the term gecko. Pip is not a water dweller. Leopard geckos are desert dwellers. And we've provided, because Pip is so small, Pip doesn't need much of an enclosure, but we do have a larger area for Pip to hide in the hot end and a smaller area for Pip to hide in the cool end. They do have water in their enclosure. Right there's Pip's. And Pip's got a little shelter. Now, no, that's not typically a desert setting, but it does create the type of shelter that Pip would encounter in his natural environment. And there's Pip's food, and our other leopard gecko, Leroy Jenkins, that's his food. Notice it's solely crickets. Now, they would also eat the mealworms. However, I found that they don't really like the mealworms. So we're going to go with crickets alone with these guys. And they're not really the sort of reptile that'll take a snack. I put a couple live ones in here, live crickets in with these guys, and they enjoyed the thrill of the hunt. But that's about it. They weren't really into eating them. Now that's Pip. Now notice how fat his tail is, and how small he is. Now he'll get to be about twice that size, and you'll see that in just a second with Mr. Jenkins, because Leroy is full grown and Pip is not. We're going to try to take Pip out, but Pip is fairly new and fairly young and not exactly a people gecko either. And leopard geckos will make noise and will bite if so inclined. But that's Pip. Move him a little closer here, down here. That's Pip. Notice the colors. He's very, very beautiful.
Yeah, the cat's very interested.
But all leopard geckos, for the most part, are going to have different patterns. So that's what makes them beautiful and unique. Yeah, that's where he got his name. The spots on his back reminded Stacy of dice. So he goes by Pip. Now let's go to Mr. Jenkins as we put Pip up and give Pip his dinner.
Oh, and you should tell them never to hold them by their tail.
Yeah, even leopard geckos, although they're a different kind of gecko, what sets them apart is really unique. If you look here, Mr. Pip has eyelids. The leopard geckos are the only geckos that have eyelids, and we think that's primarily because they live in the desert around the sand. Turn around so molds around there.
Oh, that's right.
And so that's his food. Like I said, they're desert dwellers. But again, like any gecko, you're not going to want to pick them up by the tail because they can shed their tail. And that's not exactly a good thing. They also have shedding issues that can present. But most of our reptiles, outside of Lola, who isn't feeling well at the time, everybody's healthy. This should always be kept on hand. With any reptile, you're going to run into the possibility of salmonella after handling them. Now, these are great. Most of my reptiles are going to be great reptiles for kids. And the leopard geckos, this is Leroy Jenkins, his enclosure. The leopard geckos are actually going to be really good with kids. The bearded dragons are fantastic with kids. Both of them beginner level reptiles. Now the Uromastyx and the chameleon, slightly advanced level reptiles. But I've been doing this for years and years, and I know the importance of taking care of reptiles. That's his little enclosure there. Now he's also got an enclosure in the hot end, like I was mentioning before. And his water over there. But he's got his enclosure in the cool end. He likes to hang out on the shelves. But right now, Mr. Jenkins is hiding behind the shelves. Hello, Leroy. We're going to take you out and handle you a little bit. I know that's not going to make you happy. Mr. Jenkins, most of our animals are rescues, and Mr. Jenkins was a rescue. He wasn't exactly loved at the home he was in. So he came to us, and we've decided to care for him. Now, Mr. Jenkins is mostly mellow, but like any gecko, he can move with a purpose. Oops. Now he's actually being nice today.
That's because Mama's got him.
Yeah, he seems to like Stacy. But that's Mr. Jenkins. Leroy Jenkins. And he gets around. Now the leopard geckos, as opposed to the other reptiles I have, the leopard geckos are nocturnal. So them being up and about during the day is unusual. But Leroy is an unusual creature. He tends to spend a lot of his time up during the day. He's looking at us. And notice he looks completely different from Pip. He's got that big fat tail of the leopard gecko. But beautiful markings. But yeah, they're nocturnal, but Leroy comes out a lot during the day just to see what we're doing. He's going to go back and hide now. And Pip is also nocturnal. And they're the only ones. All the rest of them are diurnal, which means they're going to be out and about during the day. Let's pause here and move on, and we'll meet the snakes. Okay, next on our tour of the household is Scarlet, she's an albino California king snake,
Also a rescue.
also a rescue. She is full grown. And like I said earlier, both the snakes have eaten today, so we won't be seeing that. But Scarlet eats adult mice that I order frozen over the internet. And Cue Ball, the snake you'll see later, eats not full-grown rats, but he's significantly larger than Scarlet in girth. And again, you're going to find these in California and about the western U.S. She's got water in there, and she is not tropical or desert. Notice she's getting a drink right now.
That's so cool.
She's not tropical or desert, and we guarantee you she is a female. I just pulled eggs out of here today. They will lay eggs even if there's no male around. So they're found, like I said, in the western U.S. And so we've gone and gotten some bark shavings. She's got a bark hideaway. She's got this log, and you'll see this log has a little hole in it up top here that she will climb down in, and she will completely disappear into the length of this log. And she's got a boat. Now, the boat was an early thing that got put in there when she was smaller, and it was actually an aquarium decoration. But no, there's a couple holes here as well where the fish would normally go in and out. But she loves to hide in her little boat. So no, it's not exactly natural habitat for her, but Scarlet loves it, and we keep Scarlet happy. And Stacy's going to go ahead and pull Scarlet out. Scarlet's very friendly. Scarlet's a little hyperactive, but she's very friendly. She becomes more mellow as you pull her out.
The egg.
Yeah, notice she's got a bulge right there at the very end. We're pretty sure that's an egg that hasn't passed yet. And notice that's how long she is. She's not very thick. They will not get girthy. However, the keen thing about the California king snake, and any snake with the word king in its name, like the king cobra, there's a reason she's kept alone, because she eats mice and stuff like that, but she will also eat other snakes. Any snake with the word king in its name has that in it, because she will eat other snakes. And of course, she gets very excited. She lives right beside Pip, and when Pip comes out to play, she gets very excited because Pip would also, small geckos and salamanders and stuff like that would also be natural prey for her. But again, she's very, very beautiful. All my girls are beautiful. And Stacy's going to walk away and turn on the light. All my girls are very beautiful, but notice her markings. She's got the bands of a king snake, but because she's albino, she's going to have the white skin, the red eyes, and the yellow bands.
Now, before she sheds, those bands look lavender.
Yeah, before she sheds, she'll get a little darker, and the bands will look to change color, and her eyes will cloud over. Again, the king snake is a great beginner snake, but you cannot have it with another snake, because they will eat them. Again, great beginner snake, good for children, very docile. And we're going to go ahead and let Scarlet get back to her
digestion
of her mouse she had earlier today. Now, all my reptiles will eat daily. The gecko may eat twice daily, considering the condition of their food. If it dries out really bad, I'll give them fresh food, maybe twice a day. The chameleon also, she can eat twice a day. She's a very voracious eater, much like the bearded dragons. An issue you have that I want to point out with the food, notice the geckos, like the bearded dragons and the uromastyx when she's healthy, live on sand. They are desert dwellers, be it from Pakistan, Egypt, and Australia. they are desert dwellers. You have to concern yourself with their food and the sand because they can experience something called impaction, where the sand will get in their digestive system. They won't be able to pass it. But I take all that into consideration when feeding them. That's just one of the issues you have to look for. Now, this large enclosure on the bottom is a great big custom built enclosure. I actually built it in a number of separate pieces, brought it up here and assembled it. This is for cue ball. Cue ball, much like her name implies, is a ball python. Cue ball is a fairly small ball python. She will get to be about 4 foot long, and notice she's a lot thicker in girth than Scarlet is. The ball python, also a very docile creature, stays fairly small for a constrictor, as opposed to your other Burmese pythons and your boa constrictors and such. It'll stay smaller, and they're called ball pythons because note how she curls up like that. They curl up into a ball when they're scared.
Or when they're sleeping.
And again, they're more of a tropical. So we've gone with the bark. They're found sort of a South America snake. So we've gone with the bark, the trees, stuff to rub on. She gets a larger water bowl because the snakes like to soak in the water bowl when it comes time to shed.
She's not going to let me stretch her out.
Yeah, she doesn't want to stretch out like Scarlet did. Scarlet likes to travel around, but again, when the ball python gets uncomfortable, it will curl up. But again, very docile, and she's gotten used to us. She likes to curl around. This is her cave. Notice it's tremendous. Another good thing about keeping the bark and the sticks and the stones in here is it gives them something to rub on whenever they are shedding. It makes for an easier shed, as does the water. They get to soak in. Notice her water's big enough for her to fit in completely. Scarlet's water is big enough for her to fit in completely. We're pretty sure cue ball here is a female. We haven't had her sexed, haven't felt the need. The reason we think she's a female is if you look down here, notice how quickly her tail tapers. It tapers very quickly. It's not elongated and thin. It tapers very quickly. That's the mark of a female.
A good indication.
Yeah, a good indicator of a female. And really, she's got a lot of heat in here, which is wonderful because this thing's not built solid. Notice there are slats in here where the air can go in and out. But she doesn't need it extremely humid. She doesn't need it extremely hot. So she's good up here. And really, this is a lot more than she needs. And there may come a day where she goes into the 40-gallon aquarium that the bearded dragons currently live in. And the bearded dragons will move into this because with 3 of them getting significantly larger than they currently are, then they're going to need more space. And that's cue ball. She's actually the largest one. And she's slightly less than full grown. As I said, she'll get to be about 4 foot long. And you don't see her a whole lot. She comes out to eat, but she does not come out and spend time wandering around. Scarlet, on the other hand, notice she's going into her ship and coming out the other end. She will come out and spend all day exploring the inside of her terrarium. Now, this is the way they all look, and this is the way they will look on a regular basis. They all have a territory in the wild that they would stick to, so not a lot of change. And change tends to stress out reptiles. They don't like it, especially with the chameleon. She will get stressed easily. So we like to keep these things the same, so they don't experience the stress of a different environment constantly. Those are the reptiles, and
one more keynote.
And that's my wonderful assistant. Look how beautiful she is.
All his girls are beautiful. But keynote, between every animal that I touched, I used the Germ-X or some kind of hand sanitizer before moving from each animal and when I'm completely done with touching all of them. Because you don't want, if one of them gets sick, you don't want to spread anything. Even if you don't know they're sick, you may spread something between the different animals.
Yeah, and it's very important up here to use stuff like that between the animals, because we have 2 large snakes that share an enclosure with the ferrets, which take up most of the room. I've got one of them jumping up and down over here. But it's very easy to touch the ferrets and stick your hands in to pick up one of the snakes, and they'll use their sense of smell to identify things, and they'll smell that ferret and they'll attack your hand. So, and you don't want that to happen. Well, while it's not poisonous, both of my snakes are constrictors. That means they grab their prey and wrap around it in order to crush it. And they don't really crush it as much as they do. They simply stop it from breathing. That's how it dies, and then they swallow it whole. So their bite is really more of a hindrance and slightly painful. That's all you really have to worry about. And then, of course, if you get bit, you have to worry about keeping it clean to prevent infection, which is a big issue with some of your other lizards, like your monitor lizards, which normally I would have one of those. I've had a number of them. We don't have any in the house right now. Anyway, that's the reptiles, and we'll be moving on to the mammals in just a moment. Before we get to the reptiles, I just wanted to show you while I'm up here. Notice Scarlet can fit in her water, and often does. That not only helps them with shedding, as I mentioned, but also aids in digestion and the passing of this egg, which we believe is in there. But that's going to help her out a lot, so she spends a lot of time in that water. Now, as I said, all these reptiles share a room with these 2 bozos. That is a regular ferret. Her name is Raven. And her sister, Snackers, is an albino ferret. Ferrets can be found in a lot of places, but they are North American creatures. In North America, in the wild, you'll find the black-footed ferret, which last I checked was endangered. Ferrets, kind of like a mixture between weasels, skunks, and cats. They are litter trained, so that's a plus. I'm not going to bother to show you the litter box, but Stacy was pointing in its general direction. They are litter trained, thus the reason they have this huge area to run in, and then they have their little habitat in the back with their foods in there, and their hammocks and such, their little beds. Got a little bed in the corner. They like to go in here and sleep. It's really filled with a paper sort of material, but they like to go in there and sleep. They've got a lot of toys, a shoe, tubes, wheels, you name it. But the only downside to the ferrets is they have an odor to them. They do have scent glands, which in 99% of your domestic ferrets are removed. But you still have that problem with them having a general odor. They eat ferret food. Oftentimes they'll eat cat food. They'll eat treats. I think they've got treats around here. They like banana chips and stuff like that. And of course they've got a water bowl over in the corner there, as well as, if you look across there, they've got like a little mammal, a water bottle.
Now you have to be real careful feeding them cat food, because the cat food has to be very high in protein and not high in fat. If it's too high in fat and not protein, you'll get a sickly fat ferret. And this one turned out to be allergic to wheat and soy and grain. So she gets Benadryl once a day, and she gets a grain-free food.
And these are full-grown ferrets.
Girls.
However, they do range in size. Some ferrets will be a little bit larger. Notice there's a size difference just between these two. And it's not because of age, because we're pretty sure Snackers here is significantly older than her little sister Raven.
Yeah, the females can run in between 1 to 2 pounds, and the males can get up to around 3.5, 4 pounds, generally.
And again, these are, for the most part, while everything you've seen so far is considered an exotic pet, and if you get one, you do have to make sure that you have a veterinarian that can take care of your pet in times of need. And while reptiles don't often need a veterinarian, when they do, it's good to have one that knows what they're doing. So luckily, we have one very nearby the house we trust. These ferrets are considered exotic animals, so you do have to make sure that your veterinarian can treat them. But they are very good with children, and they are a beginner animal. Anybody can own a ferret. I had one when I was a kid, and they're wonderful little creatures. They're very energetic. I would never suggest owning one ferret. And another issue is they do need a lot of room to run. They are, again, very energetic creatures. And notice they're usually good with other animals. One of the ferrets doesn't like one of the cats. That's a cat. You'll meet it later. That's Hunter. But notice they'll run around and have a good old time. They've got a window here where they can get natural sunlight, or we've got a light in the room, and they've always got the light from the reptiles.
And even if you can't give them a huge enclosure like this, ours are lucky because they get all this running room and they can run anytime they want to. But if you have a pet ferret and you don't have this kind of room, that's not a problem, as long as you can safely let them run for about 2 hours a day. 2 hours a day, they will run and play and jump, and then they will crash and they will sleep. And trying to wake them up, you think they're dead.
And trying to, litter training them again is an easy task, much like litter training a cat. So you can let them run around the house. As long as you keep a close eye on them, they will get into small spaces. So you have to be careful of stuff like that. With refrigerators and stoves, they can get under and behind. But you can let them run around, or you can do like we've done here and gotten a little cage. They're not very expensive. You can even go to Walmart and pick up a playpen. An infant playpen, and they can bounce around and play in there. Make sure to provide them plenty of toys and plenty of things to help them stay active and stay interactive, because they really do require that. As much as I hate to say it, they're pretty intelligent and they need that stimulation.
All right, girls.
And we'll move on to the next ones. I'm not a big fan, but Stacy's got a couple of them. This is Harley. He's domestic long hair. He's the smaller of the cats. And cats, everybody knows about cats. They're easy loving pets. Harley's very friendly, loves attention. Very fluffy, as opposed to the other two, Hunter and Alex. Harley is a male. Got his name because of the way he purrs. He sounds like a Harley. He's very loud. But this is their giant playpen. And they have the run of the house for the most part. As they should. They get along well with the dogs. It took some doing. That's Hunter. Hunter is from a different litter. They were both picked up at the Humane Society. But they're only about a month apart. Notice, though, Hunter's significantly larger than Harley. And we're pretty sure, again, and he's domestic short hair. Again, we're pretty sure he's going to grow to be a good bit larger than his brother. That's their bed on top of the dog beds. We don't use the crates that often, but there are times in dog rearing that crates become a necessity, and we try to make them as comfortable as possible. They should be big enough that your dog can move around in, but confining enough that they're not going to use the bathroom in one end of it and stay in the other. You don't want to use a large crate for a small dog because they won't learn to go to the bathroom outside the crate. They won't learn to hold it. They'll just go to the bathroom one part of the crate and not the other. Again, that's Hunter. He's and they're both Spitfires, both of them. Hunter and Harley. Harley's the lazy one with the big fluffy tail.
Snackers. Hey.
Yeah, he's the one that Snackers, the ferret you just met, the albino ferret. He's the one that Snackers hates. And he will not stay out of that enclosure. He just lays down and lets Snackers chew on him and until somebody rescues him. He's kind of retarded, but that's to be expected with a cat. Where's your other cat?
I have no idea, and it's your cat.
That's my cat, my ass. Let's find the other cat. Hold on. This is Alex. Alex isn't very social. She was rescued from a bad situation. I really wish I had more light here. She was rescued from a bad situation. There we go. I'm learning new things on this phone every day. She's our female cat. She was full grown when we got her. A family had her for 6 years. Got a puppy. The puppy didn't get along with her. So instead of getting rid of the puppy, they got rid of the cat. So we thought she got a raw deal and we took her in. She's still getting used to the dogs. And she's still getting used to the other cats. She spends a lot of time hiding. A lot of time living in the bedroom. But she does venture out, so don't feel too bad for her. She does see the rest of the house. She's at the point where you can pet her. She's at the point where the other cats and dogs can pass her by. But when we first got her, you couldn't do any of that stuff.
She hid in the sink.
Yeah, she hid in a sink and didn't want to be touched. But that's Alex, and those are the cats. What could be next? All right, this is what we got. This is Saltine, better known as Salt.
Hey, Daddy.
She's a female. She's pretty much full grown. She's a black and white pit bull terrier.
Look at Daddy.
We have a number of pit bulls. Stacy and I have had pit bulls ever since we first got married. Hell, before we got married, we owned pit bulls, and I will always be a pit bull advocate. Saltine is not vicious. She is awful scared of people, though, and this is their yard. She loves her mama. Saltine is Stacy's dog 100%. And that's about as big as she'll get. Now, pit bulls vary in size greatly, since pit bull isn't a specific breed. It tends to be a generalization of a number of dogs. But that's a video for another time. Just got a shot of Stacy's cleavage, and she's been over there. Let's see. Stacy's other dog is Foster. Foster is a Border Collie Husky mix. Foster was the runt of 7. So he got his name because we had 2 mothers. Each had 7 puppies. One was a Border Collie with a Husky father. The other was a Lab with apparently a Husky father as well. But Foster was technically the smallest of 14 puppies. The Border Collie didn't want anything to do with him, so the Lab raised him for the short time that he was with his foster mom, and we kept him. All the other 14 plus the 2 moms found good homes, and Foster stayed. Now, Foster's had a number of health issues,
Which is why he stayed.
He's got an expensive hip issue, some arthritis, but Foster's very young. You can see he's got that husky in his eyes, and he's probably the largest dog we've got. And they're all very loving dogs. And Foster likes to talk. That's what he does. Now, our oldest boy, David, that's his dog right there. We're pretty sure it's a Walker Coonhound. He is just a show quality dog. His only downside is he likes to get on the counter and chew up dog food cans.
Yes, I do.
But other than that, he's a really good dog. Again, he's full grown. He's got a beautiful stance, a beautiful face. great markings. He's got some allergy issues, but we take care of those. All of our dogs, all of our animals have for the most part great health, but the issues they do have are treated wonderfully by some of the city's best veterinarians, as far as I'm concerned. And that's 3. As everybody knows, we've got 6 now. We've had 6 for a while since the passing of one of our pit bulls. So we're going to throw those 3 in the house and see if we can't call out 2 of the other, or 3 of the other ones. And 2 of these are mine, and one of them belongs to our youngest boy, Dominic.
Dixie Lee, come here.
And I have to point out that all of our dogs are rescues. Every one of them. That's Dixie Lee. She's a bird dog that was found on the side of the interstate.
She's an English field pointer.
English field pointer, as far as we think. She's very mellow. She doesn't play with toys. That's Dixie Lee's one downfall. She doesn't like to play with toys. But she's very loving. There she goes out in the yard.
BJ.
She's a very loving dog. She had a really bad hip problem when we found her, but we took her right to the veterinarian, had that hip problem fixed, and I couldn't bear to get rid of her. So we've still got Dixie Lee. This is BJ.
Hey, come here.
BJ is a brindle pit bull terrier.
Look at Daddy.
He is
Daddy.
he's probably the oldest dog in the house.
Yes, sir.
He was rescued from a very bad situation, but he loves his house now and loves his people, and he's learned to trust again. He plays with toys every night. All the dogs get treats. They're all spoiled. BJ is significantly smaller than Saltine, you'll notice, and Saltine was significantly larger than the last pit bull we had. Both of these you see right here are my dogs. BJ and Dixie Lee are both mine. And like I said, pit bulls vary, and their colors vary. I'm a very big fan of the brindle, though, and that's what, if you've never heard of it before, those brown markings with the black stripes, that's a brindle coloring. And you'll notice none of our pit bulls have cropped ears. We don't believe in it. Their tails aren't cropped. None of our dogs have cropped tails. Then again, we don't have dogs that would normally have cropped tails, but again, we don't believe in that either. We don't believe in declawing cats, so none of our cats are declawed. And that there is probably the smallest and most beautiful dog we have.
Chase.
That's Dominic's dog, Chase.
Sit.
He,
Sit.
we're pretty sure he's a coyote mix.
Boy.
He was also a rescue from a bad situation. He's got some attitude issues, but a beautiful dog. And very, very loyal to his boy.
And chinchilla soft.
Just inseparable. And like Stacy said, just chinchilla soft. He's fluffy and soft, and at times can be very playful. But he does have an attitude issue that we have to address quite often. And one of those crates in there is primarily his. So, those are the bearded dragons, the uromastyx, the leopard geckos, the king snake, the ball python, the ferrets, the cats, the chameleon, and the dogs,
and me,
and Stacy.
Stacy
has been my wonderful assistant, and I'll let her take it from here. And that's it. Those are the animals we have now, but we do a lot of rescue work. We do a lot of foster work. Most of my reptiles at this point have been purchased, though. I do have to say that, purchased at pet stores. But I love my reptiles, and I take good care of them. Now remember that the chameleon uromastyx, for the most part, are advanced reptiles, and I've had reptiles these for almost 30 years now, so I know a thing or two about them. And Stacy and I have had dogs as long as we've been together. We've been caring for them for the most part ourselves. And you tend to learn a lot from the veterinary technicians and the veterinarians you deal with over the years. If you have any questions about any of the animals, let us know. If you have concerns about getting your own animal, let us know. We'd be happy to answer any questions. Stacy knows a lot about animals. I know a lot about animals. And we've had them all. We've had the reptiles. We've had things you haven't seen in the video. We've had hedgehogs.
Potbelly pigs.
Potbelly pigs.
Birds.
We've had other snakes. We've had a number of birds. Parrots. Parrotlets. What were the other two? Cockatiels. We've been through it all. So we hope everybody loves animals. We'd like to see a day when everybody treats them right, and I'd like to see a day the animals are considered to have equal rights just like us. But we'd be happy to answer any questions, and I hope you're a little happier having been introduced to our zoo.
The Carson Crew.
The Carson Crew. Bye.